After a hectic 5 days of driving, I finally found myself on the deck, savoring a cup of dark coffee in my favorite chair. It was a moment of reflection after dropping off our twins, Luke and Kelly, at their respective colleges and officially becoming empty nesters. As I sat there, I couldn't help but feel a sense of contentment, knowing that Miranda and I had successfully navigated this transition, despite the bittersweet emotions that often accompany such milestones. Our journey had taken us to Atlanta, where we bid farewell to Luke as he embarked on his journey at Georgia Tech. With Luke settled, we made our way to Gainesville to drop off Kelly, who was starting her journey as a Gator. After ensuring both kids were settled, Miranda and I indulged in a few days of relaxation at Daytona Beach, where we reveled in each other's company and shared moments of intimacy that surpassed any we had experienced in our marriage thus far. As I sat reminiscing on our trip, Miranda excused herself to freshen up. I was taken aback when I heard the blow dryer, a sound typically associated with her prepping for work or a night out. Curiosity piqued, I joined her in the kitchen, where she sat dressed impeccably in a fresh blouse and jeans. "Alan, sweetie, can we talk for a minute?" Miranda's voice was gentle but serious, drawing my attention. Puzzled, I took a seat as she poured me a cup of coffee. "What's on your mind, Miri?" I inquired, sensing there was something she needed to discuss. "I'm leaving you, Alan," Miranda spoke calmly, holding up a large manila envelope. "These are the divorce papers for you to review and sign." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks, and I felt numb, unable to respond. It was as if everything had come crashing down out of nowhere. Despite my shock, Miranda continued, detailing the arrangements. "Everything is outlined in the documentation. I don't want anything from you. Whatever belongings I've left behind are yours to do with as you wish. Our savings and accounts have been divided, and all joint credit cards have been canceled. I've updated my address with relevant parties and arranged for communication through my solicitor. I've also obtained a restraining order, as I don't want any further contact after I leave. I have a new phone number and email, and my old accounts are closed. Please refrain from involving the kids or my parents. They're aware of the situation and won't assist you. And as for Dan, I've been in a relationship with him for 13 years. I love you, Alan, but I love Dan more. He's been patient, and it's time to commit fully to him." Miranda's words hung in the air as she prepared to leave, gathering her belongings. Finally finding my voice, I managed to utter, "Why?" Without a hint of emotion, she met my gaze and simply said, "Sandy Thompson." With that, she left, closing the door behind her. That marked the last time I saw or spoke to Miranda for 16 months. Dan Roberts, my coworker, had become known as Work Dad due to his close friendship with Miranda and Laura, his wife. Laura and Miranda had bonded during pregnancy, leading to a deep friendship that extended to our families. With Cassie, Laura, and Dan's daughter, born shortly after our twins, our families became intertwined. We spent weekends together, living just 2 blocks apart. Before the unexpected arrival of our twins, Miranda and I had aspirations for college. She aimed to study business management, while I had a partial baseball scholarship with a focus on mathematics. However, our plans shifted when Miranda became pregnant, and I set aside my ambitions to support our growing family. Despite the challenges, our parents provided unwavering love and support. My parents, having me later in life, cherished their role as parents, while Miranda's older brother had already left for college by the time she was 8, leaving her with a limited sibling relationship. Unfortunately, a year after leaving college, her father passed away in a car accident. This shifted her focus, mirroring the dedication my parents had shown towards me. As a wedding gift, my parents handed over the deeds to our family home, planning to relocate further south in preparation for retirement. I landed a job at a local insurance company in sales, which suited me perfectly. While the base salary was modest, the commission structure offered the potential to nearly double my earnings. However, it demanded long hours, typically 12-hour shifts and occasional weekends. Miri secured a part-time receptionist position, intending to continue her education online while caring for the twins. Her parents played a crucial role in providing childcare and embraced every opportunity to spend time with their grandkids. 3 years later, the Sandy Thompson incident occurred. I had been honored as Salesman of the Year for the North Carolina region, earning a $2,500 bonus and an all-expenses-paid trip to Washington, where our company's head office was located. Miri and I were excited for our first trip alone together, without the twins. However, just before departing, Luke fell ill with whooping cough, followed by Kelly the next day. Despite the circumstances, Miri urged me to make the most of the trip. Arriving at the gala ahead of time, I registered and indicated that I didn't have a +1 with me. Dressed in a rented tuxedo, I found myself seated next to Sandy Thompson from our Little Rock office, who, unlike most attendees, was only a year older than my 21 years and in her first year with the company. Despite having limited experience with alcohol, I indulged in a couple of glasses of wine with dinner, courtesy of the free open bar. To my surprise, I was named Salesman of the Year during the award ceremony, receiving a trophy and a $10,000 check. Upon returning to the table, a bottle of champagne arrived, compliments of the bosses. The remainder of the night was a blur until I woke up at 5 in the morning next to a naked Sandy Thompson. Panicked, I swiftly returned to my room, packed my belongings, and hit the road home within 20 minutes. Miri was taken aback when I returned home 4.5 hours later. She wasn't pleased when, 10 minutes later, I confessed that I had gotten drunk and ended up sleeping in another woman's bed. The only question she asked was the girl's name. Before I could explain further, she informed me she was going to her parents' house for a couple of days, packed a small bag, and left the kids with me. For 3 days, she avoided my calls and didn't want to see me. When I returned home from work on Tuesday after dropping the kids off at childcare, she was back as if nothing had happened. When I tried to discuss it, she shut me down, warning that if I ever brought it up again, she would take the kids and leave for good. That night, we went to bed, and she engaged in sex with me. There was no emotional connection, just 90 minutes of physical intimacy. It took several months for our emotional connection to return, but eventually, it did, and as per her request, we never spoke of the incident again. The following year, Miri earned her business degree and sought employment in line with her education. Our friendship with Dan and Lisa flourished, and we spent every weekend together unless work commitments intervened. Although Miri and Lisa had moved 15 miles away to be closer to Dan's workplace, they still found time to meet regularly. Miri's parents also relocated to the same area to provide support and help with the grandchildren, particularly after Lisa's passing. Dan's company experienced rapid growth, and when they needed an office manager and personal assistant, Miri proved to be the perfect fit. She excelled in her role and became indispensable to Dan, earning her the nickname Dan's work wife. This dynamic continued for 7 years until tragedy struck when Lisa unexpectedly passed away from a brain aneurysm. This loss was devastating for all of us, especially Dan, who struggled to cope on his own while raising his 11-year-old daughter. To assist Dan, Miri began stopping by his house a few times a week after work to ensure everything was in order and to prepare meals. Or so I thought. 16 months later, as I was loading the last box into the van in the garage, I was surprised to see Miri's car pull into the driveway. It was her first visit since she had expressed her desire for a divorce, and I certainly wasn't expecting to see her. "Miranda, aren't you violating the restraining order by being here?" I asked flatly and neutrally as she stepped out of her car. The days of us having conversations ended when we got divorced. "How have you been?" I nonchalantly remarked, gesturing towards the house as I headed inside. "Care for some coffee?" I asked, not bothering to wait for a response as I made my way to the kitchen. "That would be nice," she replied, trailing after me. The house was nearly empty, with only a few remaining boxes and the dining room table left. The sale of the house's contents had gone well, and whatever was left was scheduled to be taken to the dump. I had arranged for the son of a former coworker to handle the cleanup before I handed over the keys. A birthday card sat on the mantelpiece, a reminder of my recent 38th birthday, along with a good luck card from my colleagues, safely packed with my belongings. Leaving the company after 19 years was bittersweet, as I was leaving behind cherished friendships. As we sat down with our coffee, I couldn't help but notice the irony of our positions, mirroring those from 16 months earlier. "So, what brings you here today?" I inquired. "The kids received your letters about the move. Why didn't you just call them instead of sending registered mail?" she questioned, her tone accusatory. I did reach out. Well, to Kelly at least, as I don't have Luke's number, I explained wearily, anticipating her skepticism. Retrieving my phone from the table, I dialed Kelly's number and put it on speakerphone. After several rings, it went to voicemail. Turning to Miri, I requested, "Would you mind trying?" "She's probably busy," Miri dismissed, but dialed Kelly's number nonetheless. This time, it was answered on the second ring. "Hey, Mom. What's up?" Kelly greeted cheerfully. "I'm good, sweetheart. What are you and Cassie up to?" Miri inquired. "Just hanging out. We're heading to a party later, so we're conserving our energy," Kelly responded. "Have you heard from your dad lately?" Miri glanced at me, a hint of skepticism in her eyes. "Yeah, we talked last night. He said he just spoke to you and chatted with both of us for a bit. I think he's planning to catch up with Luke today," Kelly replied, unaware of the underlying question. Feeling a pang in my gut as Kelly referred to Dan as Dad, Miri observed my reaction. Kelly continued chatting, oblivious to the impact of her words. Miri persisted, asking about the last time Kelly had spoken to me, her real father. "I'm not sure, a few weeks ago maybe," Kelly responded, her tone now somber. Glancing at my call log, Miri noted my attempts to reach out to Kelly and Luke. It was evident that neither of my children had made any effort to contact me since Miri left. "That's strange because I'm actually with him right now, and he tried calling you just a minute before I did," I interjected, addressing my daughter's sudden realization. "Oh," was her only response. "Just a reminder, you only have one dad, and it's not Dan." "We'll talk later, young lady," Miranda said sternly as she ended the call, clearly upset. "Why don't you have Luke's number?" Dan made sure he had a new phone and number within hours of his old one being stolen. "I don't know," I replied with a shrug. "Don't be too hard on them. It's just how they've been conditioned," I added, gesturing towards my call log on my phone. "I'm no longer relevant to them, as you heard." "I've been replaced," I admitted, feeling a pang of hurt myself. "Since you left, I've probably spoken to them for a total of 1 hour. I haven't even been in the same area code as them. I've tried, believe me. I even got box tickets for the Braves opening day game, but Luke said he was busy. Later, I found out he went with Dan and some other guys who got last-minute tickets. But if that's what they want, I'm not going to force them." We sat in silence for a moment, lost in our own thoughts, before Miranda changed the subject. "So, are you moving closer to your parents?" "Not exactly. I'm going down to take care of Mom. She needs full-time care now," I explained. "Oh my God. What's wrong with her? How's your dad handling it? You never mentioned anything." Miranda's eyes filled with tears. "She has late-stage Alzheimer's. It's pretty advanced, she hardly remembers anything anymore. And as for Dad, we buried him just over 3 weeks ago. They said it was a heart attack, but I think it was a broken heart," I revealed solemnly. "Oh no!" Miranda exclaimed. "How do you know it was a broken heart, and why didn't you call us?" "I did call. It was actually the last time I spoke to Kelly, the day after Thanksgiving. That's when I found out Luke had a new number, and Kelly said she was busy and would call me back. She never did. I tried calling her daily for a couple of weeks until I finally got the message. Interestingly, despite blocking me on Facebook, they hadn't blocked Dad. I discovered that when she claimed to be busy, she was actually going to the Black Friday sales with you and Granny Roberts," I explained, using air quotes. "As for knowing he died of a broken heart, that's simple. I hadn't told them about our divorce. I had intended to earlier, but couldn't bring myself to do it. When you left, I went to see them the following weekend to discuss it face to face. When I arrived, I discovered how bad Mom's condition was. Dad had mentioned her forgetfulness, but from the last time I had seen them, the Christmas before, she had deteriorated significantly. Of course, you wouldn't have known because you were unavailable for the 3 years prior when I took the kids," I added, unable to resist the dig, knowing the reasons for her unavailability. "So I couldn't tell them then, and it only became more difficult as time passed. Anyway, at Thanksgiving, after we had eaten and settled Mom down, Dad confronted me as he hadn't heard from you or the kids in over a year. So I told him the truth. The next morning, I found him in his favorite chair, clutching a picture of the four of us, still wet from his tears. Yes, our divorce broke his heart. You know, Mom and Dad were married for 52 years. He was old school and expected us to be married until the day we died. At the funeral, I suddenly realized how alone I was in the world. It was just me, the chaplain, and a couple of the neighbors who attended. I couldn't even bring Mom. She didn't even understand what was happening. For a week or two after, I would tell her he was gone when she was lucid enough. But I can't bear to see her anguish every time she hears it, so now I just say he's out for a bit. Miri was sobbing by now. I had no more tears to shed. I was emotionally drained and had been for a while. My gaze drifted to the solitary birthday card on the mantel, and Miri followed my eyes, clearly noticing it. I continued in the same neutral tone. I may be alone, and Mom doesn't even recognize me, but I owe her for bringing me into this world. So yes, I'm packing up everything to care for her for whatever time she has left. It's incredible how your actions have consequences and how many people they affect. You destroyed our marriage, shattered my relationship with my kids, and tore apart my family. I finished with the bitterness I had promised myself I wouldn't display, but I couldn't contain it any longer. Don't you dare blame me for everything. At least Dan is faithful to me. And remember, it was you who cheated on us with Sandy Thompson. Miranda shot back, her words laced with anger. I'm certain she didn't anticipate my burst of laughter, the kind that brings tears to your eyes. Oh yes, let's not forget Sandy Thompson, the alleged reason you spent over 15 years plotting your revenge. You made it clear that I couldn't even mention her name, or you'd leave me and take the kids. Well, I guess that ship has sailed. I never touched Sandy Thompson, I exclaimed, my voice rising with frustration. When I woke up in her bed, I was still dressed in the same tux from the night before. Nothing happened. Do you really expect me to believe you? Miri shot back, her tone filled with skepticism. Of course I do. I've never lied to you before, and I have no reason to lie now, I replied, trying to regain my composure. Whatever, she retorted, sounding more like Kelly than the grown woman I had been married to. Her dismissive response bothered me for some reason. I could tell she still didn't believe me, and for some inexplicable reason, it was important to me that she did. I picked up my phone and put it on loudspeaker, dialing my old office. Jane, the receptionist, answered promptly. Hi Jane, it's Alan Dowd. Hey Alan, are you all set for the big move? We're going to miss you around here, Jane said sincerely. Yeah, all packed up. Just catching up with an old friend before hitting the road. Hey, I'm trying to reach out to an old colleague from the Little Rock office. I'm not sure if she's still there. Could you check if there's a Sandy Thompson in the system? I asked. Sure thing, Alan. Hold on a sec, Jane replied before returning with the information. Yep, she's still here. Do you want her number, or should I transfer you? Thanks, Jane. Just transfer and take care of yourself. And remember, if Paul decides to tie the knot, I expect an invitation. I said, chuckling. Will do, Alan. Don't forget about us. Here you go, I'm putting you through now, Jane replied with a laugh. Miri was frowning but watching me intently by now. Hello, Sandy speaking, came the voice on the other end. Hi Sandy, it's Alan Dowd from the Grenville office. I'm not sure if you remember me, I began. Remember you? I had dreams about you for years, the man I wanted but never got, Sandy responded with a laugh. How have you been? It must be fate, as I've been thinking about you lately. It's been 16 years since we last spoke, although I did catch glimpses of you at the gala a few times. Never got the chance to catch up, though. You know how hectic those events can be. It's actually been 17 years, but who's counting? I must admit, I don't remember much from that night, I replied, joining in her laughter. Oh, you were hilarious that night. What's your recollection of it? She asked with a smile in her voice. Well, I remember coming off stage and having champagne at the table, but things got a bit fuzzy after that. It was the first and last time I got drunk, I confessed. She burst into laughter at my response. And boy, were you drunk. I have to admit, I had my eye on you that night, although I'm sure I had competition from all the single ladies there. A tall, dark, attractive guy like you was a magnet for attention. When we danced and I felt how solid you were, I was smitten. Although being called Miri all night was a bit off-putting, it did show me your loyalty to your wife. Miri's expression shifted dramatically, even looking a bit pale. But you passed out around 11. When everything wrapped up at 12:30 and everyone went to their rooms, you were still there. So, I enlisted the night porters to help me. The problem was, no one knew your room number and the hotel computers were offline for updates. The only solution was to put you in my room, quite a task given your size. I have to admit, I was a bit naughty, she confessed sheepishly. I accidentally touched you when we were getting you onto the bed. It was just a brief touch, but it confirmed to me that you were big all over. You didn't even stir, and I was quite drunk and very aroused, so I stripped naked and slept next to you, hoping to entice you. Obviously, it didn't work, because when I woke up, you were gone, and no one saw you for the rest of the weekend. All I can say is, your wife is very lucky. Miri buried her head in her hands, realizing the magnitude of her actions. I couldn't summon any sympathy for her. Her own actions and assumptions had led to this situation. Her elaborate plans for revenge over the years revealed a side of her I didn't truly know. She's my ex-wife now, and knowing what I know, I should have taken you up on that offer, I replied, chuckling. She chuckled, well, you're about 7 years too late if you were hoping to reconnect. I'm a very happily married woman these days, with 2 wonderful children. I still use the name Thompson at work for consistency with my clients, but it's Sandy Roberts now. I met Robert 8 years ago, and he was the first person since you that could break through my defenses. Miri's sudden attention caught me off guard, her face filled with anguish. It puzzled me, not understanding her reaction. It's because of Rob that you crossed my mind, isn't that strange? She chuckled. Well, his older brother Dan is getting married in a couple of weeks, and it's all happening in your neck of the woods. His fiancée, Andy, is also named Dowd. I wondered if she was related to you, since you're the only Dowd I've ever known. Miri's reaction suddenly made sense. I don't have any relatives named Andy. The only Andy I knew was back in high school, and she despised the nickname so much she would throw fits, thinking people mistook her for a boy. I glanced pointedly at Miranda, who looked ashamed. I realized I didn't really know her anymore. Well, no one would mistake Andy for a boy, she's stunning. Her kids, Kelly and Luke, are also wonderful. Kelly and Rob's daughter, Cassie, are close friends and share a room at Florida. They were bridesmaids at my wedding, and Luke was an usher for Rob. We've met them a few times over the holidays. Rob mentioned they've been together on and off for 13 years. That brief statement revealed a lot to me. It confirmed that her parents had been aware of her affair and had covered for her. When she was unavailable, I'd call, and they'd make excuses until Miri could call me back. Honestly, I don't think they should get married. It seems doomed before it even starts. Why do you say that after being together for so long? Well, they're both serial cheaters. Dan cheated on his first wife, Lisa, with Andy. I don't understand how he does it because Lisa was stunning as well. I mean, I never actually met her, but I've seen pictures. Anyway, I spoke to Andy about it once, and she said that her husband and kids understood that she had a work husband and a home husband. She shared her time between the two, and her husband had a similar arrangement with someone he worked with. I made sure to tell Rob that I would cut off his manhood if he ever thought about it. Well, Dan still has someone else while he's with Andy, and he always has. His current girlfriend is called Tilly, and he sees her when he's in Chicago. From what Rob tells me, he travels up there every couple of weeks for work. They wouldn't even be getting married if his bosses hadn't told him to make an honest woman of Andy after her home husband sued the company when she got divorced. Turns out, her husband didn't have the same understanding of their relationship. Rob said that his company had to pay out some big bucks to settle it, $600,000, thank you very much, and gave Dan an ultimatum to make it right or he would be shown the door. Not the best foundation to start a life together, wouldn't you say? Still cheating and having a shotgun pointed at him. Miri had gotten up and rushed to the bathroom, and I could hear her retching. I couldn't blame her, her whole perception had been shattered. Honest, loyal Dan was a fake, but that wasn't my problem anymore. I continued speaking to Sandy for a few more minutes as she told me about her children and what I was going off to do. I had secured a job in insurance with a reference from my current company, with an outfit near Mom's. Instead of sales, I would be working on the investigation side, which was a home-based job. The pay wouldn't be the same, but it would be more than enough for what I needed. It also came with an office and an assistant. Miranda returned as I was ending the call with Sandy, exchanging numbers and promising to keep in touch every so often. My ex-wife was not in good shape, her face was pale, and most of her makeup was either smeared or gone. She looked like she had aged years in just a short time. "I am so very sorry, Al," she said, and I truly believed her. "I'm sorry too, Miranda. Look, I have to hit the road as I need to be in Brunswick by morning." It was a 6-hour drive if I didn't stop, but I knew I'd be making a couple of stops along the way. "Those boxes are yours, containing all the clothes, pictures, and stuff you left behind. I was planning to have them sent to you next week, but since you're here, I can help you load them into your car if you'd like. Actually, could I ask you a big favor?" Miranda couldn't even meet my gaze as she spoke. "Could I stay here tonight? I don't think I can face going back just yet." I pondered for a moment, then tossed my keys onto the table in front of her. "What the hell, why not? Make yourself at home, but you'll need to return the keys to the realtors for me. The exchange is in a week, so you have 9 days if you need them. I have people coming the Sunday before to take the rest of the stuff to the dump and clean the place for me. The utilities will continue until that Monday. Take care of yourself, Miri. I really have to get going." As I walked out, I glanced back to see a broken woman sitting at the table. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel not to miss new videos.